After the Mavericks' victory last night against the Sacramento Kings, they are heading on to Memphis to take on the Grizzlies. And we, of course, will be live for that game with the watch party. The game tips at about 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So please hit that subscribe button and join us because we're going to have a lot of fun. Welcome into Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Jeffrey Cooperstein. On today's show, we'll take a look at last night's game against Sacramento and look a little bit ahead to the game against the Memphis Grizzlies. The Mavericks put on a very impressive performance last night against Sacramento, pretty much dominating the game from start to finish. Now, I believe they trailed Sacramento after one, but it was clear that they were the better team, and it was only a matter of time before they were going to break out and really blow that thing open, and they did just that in the second quarter, thanks to a fantastic second quarter performance from Klay Thompson, from Brandon Williams, and the like. A couple of notable performers I just wanted to highlight here from the game. I thought Anthony Davis had a very solid game, 27 points, 9 rebounds to go along with 3 blocks. Now, AD wasn't super efficient from the field, but he was getting to the free throw line pretty much at will, and he was getting to his spots whenever he needed to. Knocked down a few threes as well. Really like how Anthony Davis played on the offensive end. And then on the defensive end, he was fantastic, doing a great job on Domantas Sabonis. Klay Thompson started out the game 0 of 2 and then made 4 consecutive threes. Obviously, we all remember last year what happened in the play-in in Sacramento when he went 0 for 10 from the field in his final game as a Warrior. Klay was fantastic. I kind of called him out before the game and said the Mavericks need Klay Thompson to have a big game to win this one, and he did just that. So kudos to Klay. PJ was very solid as well, 17 and 9. Brandon Williams is the guy, though, that really kind of made this thing go. And Jason Kidd made a really bold move, which we'll talk about here in just a couple of seconds. But Brandon Williams is making himself a lot of money over the last 2 or 3 months. He's signed through next season now with the Mavericks after they signed him to a standard deal on April 10th. And it wouldn't shock me whatsoever if Brandon Williams was this team's game 1 starting point guard next season, given the Kyrie injury. Shout out to B. Will, played fantastic. And Dante Exum, who wasn't really in the rotation since he's been back from injury, played a really big role. 6 assists, 11 points, was excellent on the defensive end. So those are my notable performers from the game. But I think really Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, and Brandon Williams were probably my 3 stars for the Mavs. And they help you move on to a game in Memphis. And I do want to credit Jason Kidd because I think he had a fantastic game plan against Domantas Sabonis. He knew the Kings didn't have a primary point guard and the offense was going to run through Sabonis. And they made him catch the ball far away from the rim with his back to the basket. And the Kings' entire offense was just dribble handoffs from Sabonis to either Levine or DeRozan. And most of the time, the Mavericks were able to recover very quickly. They were flying around on the defensive end. They plugged the paint with Derek Lively, Gafford, Davis, and Washington, and they didn't give Sabonis much room to run at all. I thought this was a very well-coached game by Jason Kidd and his coaching staff, and that also begins with the bold move that he made where in the rotation, he chose to go with Dante Exum and Brandon Williams over Spencer Dinwiddie and Jaden Hardy. Dinwiddie played in 81 games for the Mavericks in the regular season. I believe in the last 7 games he played more than 29 minutes each, and Kidd decided to not put him in the rotation. And at the end of the day, I absolutely think that was the right call because Spencer Dinwiddie is the guy, yes, he can light up the scoreboard in a hurry, but also he's going to turn the ball over a decent amount, and he's going to take some shots where you just look at him like, what are you doing? So I really like that Kidd went with the defense first guy in Dante Exum over Dinwiddie, and he's talked about how Brandon Williams plays with a lot of pace, and without Kyrie, the Mavericks need a guard that plays with pace and plays with tenacity on the offensive end. And Brandon Williams has been that guy. So very good coach, very well-coached game by Jason Kidd and his coaching staff. And they're going to have to do it again on Friday night because the Memphis Grizzlies are a much better team than this Sacramento team. I do want to ask you guys this, though, for today's pinned comment. Are you happy the Mavericks won versus Sacramento? I know there's a lot of tension going on around the Mavericks right now, but I want to hear from you if you were happy that the Mavericks won. Type H for happy or type S for sad. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a couple seconds, you may get hit with the YouTube ad break. And while that happens, go on down there and get your votes in. This is the matchup for tomorrow night's game. The Mavericks take on the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis. The Mavericks obviously defeating Sacramento 120-106. The Grizzlies lose to Golden State 121-116. to set up a matchup for the right to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. And if the Mavericks advance, that game one would be on Sunday. We'll break down the matchup here again in just a couple of moments, but I do need to tell you guys about our sponsor, which is Game Time, America's #1 ticketing app. We absolutely love Game Time here, and the playoffs are about to start. The Stars game 1 on Saturday. The Rangers have a big series coming up against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and make sure you get hooked up with our friends at Game Time. One thing I really like about Game Time is their all-in pricing option. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, they offer the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS right there on the bottom right of your screen in all caps for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So I think this will be a pretty difficult game for the Mavericks, as the Grizzlies do present a bunch of different matchups that the Mavericks may not have seen against a team like Sacramento. The Grizzlies, first of all, can score the ball much more than Sacramento can. And number two, overall, they are just a much better team. And it'll be a much more difficult environment to go to cross country from Sacramento to Memphis, go in this game, and get yourself in the postseason. When you take a look at who you might see on the floor for the Memphis Grizzlies, you obviously start with their starting five with Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, who absolutely kills the Mavericks after the Mavs passed up on him in the draft for Josh Green. He has haunted them ever since. Jaren Jackson Jr., one of the best defenders in the league. Scottie Pippen's been a really good rotation player for them this season. And Zach Edey, who led the league in rebounds in the month of April and is really coming into his own as part of the Grizzlies rotation. And then on the bench, they have Santi Aldama, John Conchar, and Luke Kennard, who all play a pivotal role for the Grizzlies this season. And obviously, Memphis did fire their head coach just before the playoffs began. But I do think the Grizzlies are a solid team. And of course, Ja Morant is a matchup nightmare for anyone. Now, I will say this. As we sit right here at 5:23 p.m. on Thursday, Ja Morant is listed as questionable with an ankle problem that he suffered in the game against Golden State. So we'll see what his status is. Now, Tim McMahon of ESPN says he's optimistic that Ja is going to play. But even if he plays, it's clear that he won't be 100%. So that is certainly something to monitor, the injury status of Ja Morant going forward. Talking about Zach Edey, he is an absolute monster rebounder in the middle. I didn't think he was going to work out in the league just because I didn't think he was mobile enough. But he's absolutely proved me wrong here. And he's grabbing rebounds off the glass like no one has in the month of April. And he is going to be a real nightmare for Anthony Davis, for Daniel Gafford, and the Mavericks. They're going to have to do a good job of boxing Edey out and making sure they send multiple guys to the glass in order to counteract him. So that will be an interesting matchup between the two centers and Edey. We'll see what they do with Anthony Davis as well. Jaren Jackson Jr., of course, in addition to averaging 22 a night, is a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He can guard your 2 through 5. He's really good at guarding, and he just kind of takes up space on the floor and is an excellent defender. So we'll see what matchup he gets for the Mavericks. I would assume that he gets the Anthony Davis assignment to start. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. And then Desmond Bane, like I said, is an absolute killer against the Dallas Mavericks. It feels like the Mavericks have a few of those guys. Like throughout time, you had like the Andre Millers of the world. And Desmond Bane's a way better player than Andre Miller, don't get me wrong. But every time he sees that Mavericks logo, something just lights up in Desmond Bane's brain, and he goes off. So got to keep Bane, got to run him off the perimeter, got to make him take long twos and make him take contested shots, because he can beat you single-handedly if you are the Mavericks. If you take it out of Ja's hands, and I think the injury certainly will help taking it out of Ja's hands, you have a shot to win this game. If you win this game, you go on and face the OKC Thunder in the first round of the playoffs. And we'll see what happens, man. I didn't think they were going to beat Sacramento in the first game. I'm not sure if they're going to beat Memphis in the second game, but I was really proud of their effort against Sacramento. And I think if they play with that same effort, with that same tenacity, they have a hell of a chance to get out of Memphis with a win. Before we get on out of here, let me know who you guys got down in the comments if you think the Mavericks are going to take it home type DAL. If you think it's going to be the Grizzlies, type MEM. Type that down in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you tomorrow for a live episode of Mavericks Today. We're doing a watch party about 8:30 Central Time here on the channel. Lock us in. We'll see you soon.